Ah, the life of a middle-aged bachelor. Sai, a man of refined tastes, enjoyed the finer things in life: designer clothes, branded sneakers, extravagant luxuries, and a top-floor apartment overlooking the impressive Singapore city skyline. Sai's opulent lifestyle was fueled by beginner's luck with his successful trading of small penny stocks during the stock market boom in the early 2000s. However, all stock market booms are eventually followed by crashes, to the dismay of all novice traders. Having only been trading for a couple of years, after leaving his stable job in a large oil refinery, Sai fell into this novice trader category. He continued to average down by buying stocks as they fell, in the hope that they would eventually bounce back to a price where he could exit his trades with minimal losses. They never did. Sai's stocks portfolio looked more like a credit card graveyard, as he used every means possible to fuel his trading addiction. In fact, the only boom Sai experienced wasn't in the stock market, but instead, the one in his phone's notification bar. Relentless margin calls from his brokers and payment demands from debt collectors became the soundtrack of his life. His once luxurious apartment now felt like a gilded cage, the view a constant reminder of his dwindling freedom. One particularly dark and gloomy morning, amidst a mountain of overdue notices, a glimmer of hope appeared. As Sai skimmed through the local newspaper looking for more credit sources, he came across a small, seemingly innocuous advertisement by a life sciences company called Bodylock Cryogenics. Volunteers wanted. Deep freeze for the future. Apply via our website today. Deep freeze. Sai, ever the optimist, saw a golden parachute. Surely, in 100 years, his creditors would have written off his debt, and it would be a distant, comical relic. He pored over the details. The experiment, funded by a consortium of tech billionaires, aimed to cryogenically freeze healthy volunteers and wake them up a century later. The catch? The accepted volunteers would be guinea pigs for a future society. However, a future where Sai would once again be debt-free. Sai excitedly flipped open his laptop and navigated away from his red-veiled stock portfolio to the Bodylock Cryogenics website. To volunteer. Sai's application was accepted, and after a battery of tests and psychological evaluations, he found himself strapped into a futuristic pod, a metallic coffin promising a debt-free existence. With a hiss and a puff of gas, Sai was plunged into cryogenic slumber. 100 years passed in the blink of a frozen eye, and technology had taken a quantum leap. The city Sai woke up to was a breathtaking marvel of glowing lights and self-flying cars. 100 years of environmental misuse, resulting in an extremely warm and humid climate, with a pastel orange sky that had no cloud definition. Back in the laboratory, and surrounded by onlooking technicians swiping away at thin silver data pads, Sai nervously stepped out of his pod, feeling remarkably well-rested for a corpse. After a lengthy debriefing session, Sai was assisted to a private room where he could rest before further questioning. The room had calming ambient lighting and little in the way of furniture, but had several unfamiliar gadgets scattered around. As Sai, still a little dazed, sat up on an incredibly comfortable and semi-transparent bed, a slight smile spread across his face. He reflected on the financial and emotional turmoil that he had escaped and pondered on his new debt-free future. Then, one of the strange gadgets in the room suddenly buzzed into action. A full life-size body, holographic image of a pretty, yet expressionless middle-aged woman materialized. She was wearing the same style clothing as the technicians in the laboratory. "Welcome back, Mr. Agarwal. Your cryogenic fees come to a total of $100,000. The hologram continued to explain how Bodylock Cryogenics had gone bust 9 years after Sai was frozen and had its debts and assets bought by another life sciences company, who now required payment from all participants who volunteered for any of the company's experiments, including cryogenics. Sai remained seated on his bed in shock as the hologram dematerialized, ending with a brief flash of the new company's logo. Turns out in the future, cryogenic preservation wasn't exactly a budget vacation. A minute passed, and with Sai still reeling from the unexpected cryogenic fees, the same device buzzed into life again. Another hologram materialized. This time, it was a tall, thin man wearing a dark gray single-piece bodysuit and staring at a slightly larger datapad than the previous hologram. "Hello, Mr. Agarwal. Your debts after your cryogenic procedure were combined and bought by Consolidate Solutions. All of your credit card and loan debts were combined, and with compound interest over 100 years, you now owe Consolidate Solutions a total of $233,261. We will be in touch shortly to arrange settlement of this debt." Once again, the hologram dematerialized again, ending with a brief flash of the debt company's logo. The weight of a century's worth of interest crushed Sai. Here he was, in a future he barely recognized, burdened by a debt many times heavier than before. Dejected, he shuffled back to his assigned apartment, a stark, bland, futuristic room with all the warmth of a lunar base. He sat behind a desk with only his datapad and a laser gun on it and dropped his head in his hands in deep thought and regret. He had sacrificed 100 years, in which his parents, family, and close friends had all perished, just for the sake of escaping a debt that was now ironically 100 times greater now than it was then. It was all too much, and a dark depression overwhelmed Sai as he reached out for the shiny silver laser gun to end his torment. Just as Sai gripped the gun's handle, a small device close to the desk buzzed, and yet another hologram materialized. This time it was of 3 smiling young figures, 2 women and a man, all wearing dark blue single-piece bodysuits with gold trim. "Hello, Sai. We hope you are well. Our company tried contacting you many years ago, only to discover the cryogenic procedure you underwent. So we waited until now to try and contact you again." A wry smile appeared on Sai's face, as he expected another unforeseen debt to be announced. Sai gripped the gun tighter and started to pull it even closer towards him. However, the hologram message continued, oblivious of Sai's actions. One of the female holograms explained how Sai had opened a crypto account with them 102 years ago and purchased $1,200 worth of Bitcoin. It continued to say that they have been trying to contact Sai because he had not logged into his account for so long, even though the value of Bitcoin had increased significantly. Sai stopped for a moment and recalled that he did indeed purchase some Bitcoin, but was so fixated with his stocks portfolio that he had forgotten all about it. He continued to listen to the hologram message, expecting that maybe he could at least finally leave this world with one single trading success to his name. However, apparently the value of Bitcoin had skyrocketed by over 18,000% in the intervening century, turning his chump change into a fortune. It was enough to cover his astronomical cryogenic fees and his credit debts, with enough left over to live comfortably for the rest of his, well, unfrozen life. Sai, the man who gambled and lost, had stumbled upon a lucky break. A tiny, forgotten investment, a chance taken in the face of uncertainty, had become his salvation. So remember, dear viewer, that even in the darkest of times, there's always a chance. Don't give up on yourself, and keep an eye out for those unexpected opportunities. Because sometimes, the smallest seed can grow into the biggest blossom, especially when you least expect it.